See what happens when I skip making coffee? I'm only a minute late instead of like 7. Ugh. I mean, I say skip making coffee. What I meant was I'm making coffee now. I'm not skipping for the day. Let's see who gets in here before. Welcome to the live chat. Guard your privacy. Oh, I will. Thank you very much. Lighting makes such a huge difference, right? Because like there, you see the birdhouse my kid made. Kathy! Hello, Kathy. Good morning. I'm getting coffee. Then I'm heading back to my desk where, you know, there's a ton of light and someone else to hold the camera. I say someone else, but like a tripod to hold the camera. Phone. You know what I'm talking about. Ugh. You've been waiting for me. I'm so sorry. I was recording a video. I had this like huge burst of ambition and motivation this morning. And I was like, I'm going to record a bunch of short videos. And did I? No. Instead, I recorded one video that's like 1.5 minutes long. So I can only upload it to one channel. Because, no, it's 1 minute and 35 seconds long. Because of course it is. But it took me 15 minutes to record it all. There we go. All right, chargers in, sharing the link. One's better than nothing. Yeah, that's true. But I was like I was like, I'm going to record like 7 videos. Didn't record 7 videos. And you know what it is? I started with one. I started with a prompt. What's your most controversial opinion? I was like, oh, this will be easy. And I mean, it was, but I tend to blather on about it. And then I had to edit it. And I just got done editing. And I looked at it post-editing, and it's 1 minute, 35 seconds. That's not bad. That's good. But TikTok is still the only platform that does anything over 1.5 minutes. Instagram is 90 seconds. YouTube is still, for shorts, it's still just 60 seconds. Good morning, Sabrina. Hello, good morning. So I kind of feel like, oh, good. I got, like, my goal was 7 videos that I can post on 3 different channels. I got 1 video that I can post on 1 channel. Like, oh, well. I mean, things happen, right? Alex! Good morning, Alex! I might have a problem. I came up with a title for another whip on the same universe. Uh-oh. Why is that a problem? What happens? I am a mess. Whatever. Why is that a problem? Ugh. Then I won't finish part 2. Oh, I see. Alex syndrome. I'm kidding. Okay, so here's my take. Great ideas always come back. Always. They either come back as is or they come back even better. They always come back. I have never met anyone who has been like, I have an amazing idea, and then ignored it for one reason or another, and then never got it back. They either, like, even the ones who did forget about it, they ended up thinking of something better. Or it, 3 weeks later, like, they did forget about it, but like 3 weeks later, it hit them in the head and they were like, oh yeah, I was going to do this thing. So you could, I'm going to say theoretically because I'm not a scientist, but theoretically, you could say, all right, that's a good idea for that book. I'm going to stew on it while I continue working on book 2. And then come back around when you're done with book 2 and see if it hits you back. And if it does, it's a great idea. Or you could, like, the other side of ideas is that they just bug you. Like, it's kind of like, I used to be a smoker. I'm pretty sure I told you all this before, but I used to be a smoker. I smoked for almost 20 years, right? Hence the yellow teeth that I want to get fixed. Anyway. So I was a smoker for almost 20 years. And the earliest of those years, I worked in restaurants. Well, I worked in restaurants, I worked in a bank, I worked in, like, it was like 5 to 7 years of like those kinds of beginner jobs, let's say, right? As soon as I wanted a cigarette, I could be working along, I could be getting all kinds of stuff done, I could be like bam, 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 bam. As soon as I wanted a cigarette, and it didn't matter what put the idea in my head. It didn't matter if someone came to me and said, hey, cover my tables, I'm going to go have a cigarette real quick. Or if I happened to smell it because a customer came in smelling like cigarettes, or just happened to like sit for a minute because it was kind of quiet. And I was like, oh, now would be a good time for a cigarette break. Whatever the case may be. As soon as I had the thought in my head, that is what I focused on. I did not focus on anything else. It's like I became hyper fixated on the cigarette. And so anything else that I was trying to do was for the goal of getting outside to have a cigarette. So it was like, if I couldn't have a cigarette because I knew that my tables had food coming up, for example, or something like that, I would stand by the expo window and like be tapping so that I could be right there when the food comes out. And then I would run around to my tables and make sure no one needed anything else. I would like check their waters and check their soda refills and check, and whatever, so that if I went outside to have a cigarette for that 7 minutes or whatever, no one was going to look for me because all my tables were like, everything in my head was for that cigarette. And the longer it took me to get ready, the more that cigarette called to me. Like, the more I was getting angry and cranky that I couldn't just go outside and have my cigarette. Some book ideas are like that with me, where it's like the more I try to ignore it, the more I try to work on something else, the angrier it gets and the more that it calls. In those cases, book 2 goes aside, brain dump, what's in my head, no research allowed. This is one of those times, no research, no planning, just brain dump what's in my head, enough to get it out of my head and downloaded, and then I go back to book 2. And that usually satiates it. It's like when I then go outside to have that half a cigarette, and then even if someone came outside and interrupted that cigarette and was like, hey, table whatever is calling for you or whatever, I was still okay and I was fine, because even though I only got the half a cigarette, I got what I wanted. Good morning. It's living rent-free in my head. Brain dump for 10K words. Yeah. Sometimes that's what sometimes my brain dumps are like one scene. And then that's why I say no research allowed. Because sometimes it's whatever's in my head, it gets out and it's like 1 or 2 pages. It's like maybe 500 words. Maybe. And then as soon as I have to pause to go, but then what? Then I know, like, whatever was in my head is gone. because it's on the paper. Like, I just needed to get that part out. Sometimes it does turn into like 10,000 words or whatever. But even then, at that point, at least it's out. And I can just set it aside. Good morning, Jessica. Hello, Kimmy. So depending on how the idea is bugging you, you can either try to ignore it, move on with what you're trying to do, and it'll come back around. Like if you're trying to write it down because you're afraid you're going to forget it, but it's not really bugging you, you can just keep going. It'll come back. If you need to write it down because it is just poking you right in the back of the head, brain dump. Yesterday, I basically decided to make the book I'm writing into a duology. Maybe even stretch it into a trilogy, depending on how the second goes. Nice. Title right now is Holy Ground, The Origins, but might change later. You usually just brain dump. I mean, sometimes, yeah, why not? It's just the Let It Go thing I learned last year from Owen Video. He's the one who said, because people were constantly saying, like, you know, for a while, even during his training, he was like, carry around a piece of paper or your phone or whatever. And every time you get a video idea, write it down. And then the issue with write it down is that then when you sit down, yeah, sure, you've got a list of 300 video ideas and you don't like any of them anymore. And you're still like, but what do I do my video on? So he was like, stop writing them down. As soon as you write them down, the minute you write down your idea, it sounds dumber than it did 3 minutes before you wrote it down. So don't write it down. But then when he said that in the middle of the training, everyone went, but then I'll forget it. And he was like, no, you won't, because if it's a great idea, it's going to come back. As the video issue idea you have. Yeah. So his advice at that point was stop writing them down. Because written ideas are dumber than thought ideas or something like that. So stop writing them down. Just sit down and do the videos. Oh, okay. That is Owen, yes. He's also the one that turned me on to the book Anti-Time Management, which, if you haven't read that book, I really like. Ooh. Is it on Audible? I have no idea. I can check. Hang on. I'll look. I was reading books on Audible yesterday. I'm pretty sure it probably is. Yep. Richie Norton. There it is. Narrated by Richie Norton. Yep. I love Audible. Yeah, I'm getting better with it. I find I'm definitely better with nonfiction when I'm reading Audible books. Definitely better with nonfiction. Even better when it's in the author's voice. Go to Barnes & Noble just to find books and see if they're on Audible. I'm not good yet with fiction books on audiobooks. Yeah, Owen did a whole, like, almost like a workshop mastermind based on Richie Norton. That's how I heard about the book. Yeah, he's wild. He's like, throw your goals out the window. I wouldn't go that far, but I did take a lot of stuff from him. Like, he was the one who said, He did not say to hit your glasses. He was the one who said, if you're sitting down and you're spending all of your days like writing out goals, then what the heck are you doing, basically? And the thought process behind it, which makes sense, was that if your goal was that you want to get to a point in your business where you can travel the world, then start traveling the world and work as you go. Like, if your idea is, I want to work this hard so I can get to a point where I can spend more time with my family, start spending time with your family. You know, like basically live where your goal is instead of constantly going, I need to work to get to that point. Just start living it. Anti-time management. Yeah, not that you saw that. I mean, how could you not see it? That was like a big hit. I am not one who could do audio for my book. I stumble too much. Writing words is easy. Speaking is a different game. I had to practice a long time. Yeah, I get it. I fully plan. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I just signed up for 11 Labs. And I just sent over a bunch of audio recordings of me to train their AI to use my voice for my book. I'm going to see if that works. If I don't like it, then I may, you know, at some point in time, turn around, see what I can do about getting a studio or something set up so that I can do it. But if I do like it, like, I don't like the idea of AI voices for the purposes of like, well, I'm trying to save money, so I don't want to hire a real audiobook narrator. But I wouldn't release my book if it weren't in my voice anyway. So it's like, I'm not hiring one regardless if I use AI on my voice or if I just do it myself. You know what I mean? So I'm going to try that because I feel like it'll be fewer me messing up in between. Also, I need to thank you for the document layout. This has helped me write my story so much better. Yay! Oh, I'm so glad! I forgot about 11 Labs and was trying to think of the name the other day. Yeah, 11 Labs. There are a couple of others that I have heard of, but 11 Labs so far, it's scary how how close the few tests that I've done. Because usually with those AI things, usually, like, it sounds great for like a sentence, right? But then you're like, okay, well, let me go ahead and try this out with like a whole book chapter or even just a page, right? And then like 3 words in, you're like, nope, that sounds, nope. And then all of a sudden, like, now you can hear the AI. Even with 11 Labs, I can hear the AI versus my recording. I can hear the AI. But it's still so freaking close, and the quality is so good that I'm not sure everyone else would be able to hear it. And even if they did, I don't think it would bother them because, again, I'm not trying to like undermine the industry or steal people's voices. I'm just trying to get my book out there, you know? Did you notice YouTube has little animations? Where? Like on here? Is it doing weird things? I couldn't remember the name of Ingram Spark the other day. Is it good with non-English words? Because I got a handful of ancient words. I have not tried it. So far, my only tests have included me putting in some motivational words and whatnot, and me putting in pieces of my book, which is nonfiction and very much English words. So I don't know. When you like the video or watch now, the changes. Or the watch now changes. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for liking the video. I appreciate it. Sabrina, I would say don't worry about it right now because you got to work on book 2, and 11 Labs will still be around later. But if you're thinking about releasing your audiobook and you want to be the narrator, after your book is done, after your book is released, don't even bother releasing at the same time with an audiobook anyway. After it's all done, come back. 11 Labs is not going anywhere. If you don't remember the name, you come back, you ask me, I'll tell you the name. And then you can work on it. You know what I mean? Of course. I did see someone else was talking about, who was it? I mentioned it. I can't remember his name. I think his YouTube channel is The Nerdy Novelist, but I can't remember his name now. Anyway, he mentioned using 11 Labs as a fiction, where like he's got for cast fiction, where he's got like 4 or 5. He is the narrator, so it's his voice as the narrator narrating his book. But then he's got like AI voices for each character, so it becomes like a cast audiobook. It would be great to have both parts done and ready for a professional editor. Yeah, especially for your book where you're going to have it in 2 parts. It'll be a lot easier on you and the editor if the 2 books are in the same spot when the editor starts. I love that idea. Yeah. Yeah, go check it out. His YouTube channel is The Nerdy Novelist. He does a lot of AI stuff. I don't know what all he does, but that was one of the videos that I remember watching of his, was how to create like a cast audible book, or audio book. And I was like, what is this? What is this? And then he goes into 11 Labs and he shows how he trained 11 Labs on his voice. And then he shows like how he put things together, chose his cast, and how he assigned certain characters certain voices. And yeah. How do you know a chapter is too short or too long? When you're editing the book. And you look and you go, that is not a complete thought. It's too short. Or you go, I could have ended that here. All of this is just extra stuff. It's too long. But you don't start looking until you're editing. The one exception is, oh my gosh, a couple of years ago, I got hired to edit this book on advanced social media tactics. And I mean, it was like algorithmic stuff, right? It was like super advanced techie social media stuff. This book was roughly, I don't even remember, 200 pages, a little under 200 pages, I think. It was like 190 something pages. I'll have to go grab it because, of course, I bought it. I'll have to go grab it. Anyway, like 65-70% of that book was one chapter. That's too much. That chapter needed to get broken down. I was like, it was like chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like, no. It was so bad. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was a lot of really good information, but it was really bad structure. Holly Black, 1 sentence chapter. Yeah. You just need to make sure that the chapter is a complete thought, basically. Yeah, and there are sometimes audiobooks. I read Casey Davis's audiobook, and some of her chapters were like a minute and a half, and others were longer, 12 minutes. Chapter being 60 pages. But is it 60 pages out of an 80-page book? Because like his chapter 5, it was, when I say like 70%, I'm probably underestimating, because his chapter 5 was like 130 pages out of the whole complete book. It was ridiculous how much of the book was this one chapter. All of the other 7 chapters added up to less than chapter 5 combined. Client privilege. Plus, I'm sitting here like talking bad about how it was written. No. Just no. It's because chapter 9 is finite. If I over that chapter, then I have some rewrites. 60 out of 600. Yeah, so that ratio is a little bit better. Now, if you came to me and you were like, I have a 600-page book, and 450 of those pages are one chapter, I might take issue with the way you structured your book. But no. And while you're writing, chapter length doesn't matter at all. Just write. Someone asked in one of the writing groups this morning, they said, hey, is there a self-publishing platform where I can publish my book? It's 800 to 900 pages. And everyone thought that she must have been talking about money, because everyone's like, no, it's free. No, it's free. And she's like, like, no, that's not what she's asking. She wants 800 or 900 pages. I was like, you're gonna have to split that up, because Sabrina did. It's my longer chapter. I want to cut it down some. I don't have chapters while I'm writing the first draft. Yeah. I start with chapters, but they don't always stay the way that I planned them. Although when I was pantsing, this sounds like the end of a good chapter. Like, it just worked. I find I naturally write 13 to 15 chapters. Yeah. Can only print a max of 800 pages. It includes white pages. Yeah. Literally write straight through, cover to cover. So are the chapter books that pop up on Facebook and Instagram stolen or AI generated? They look scammy, and I've heard some people say that the books aren't finished. Wait a minute. Chapter books that pop up on Facebook and Instagram. Chapter books. Which ones? Do you have an example? Do you have an example of one that looks scammy that I can go and try to look up? Chapters are the only thing I plan. I like to keep them at about 6 to 9 pages long. Did I just see Alex admit to a slight amount of planning? A little bit. So an ad popped up on Facebook on a channel that I follow, but it was a book, not a whole book, and no title. Do you remember the name of the page? Maybe I could look them up that way. I don't, but I've seen several on YouTube too. Okay, I am not sure. If you think it looks scammy, avoid it. I don't know. Without being able to look at it, or without being able to know what you're talking about, I don't want to say, oh yeah, that's a complete scam, or oh yeah, that was just AI generated, or whatever, because I have no idea. And I know that, like, I was joking with a friend of mine over at Social Media Examiner, because the things he writes keeps getting, he decided to run it through like an AI checker, and like he wrote it. It's him, but the AI checker keeps telling him that it was probably written by AI. So he was like, what am I doing wrong? And I said, nothing. You're so good that they trained the AI on you. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. So he's trying to, like, some people just sound like AI, which is wild to me. Anyway, without being able to see it, I don't really want to be able to, like, I don't feel confident saying one way or another, like, yeah, bad, no, scam, or anything like that. If it feels scammy, avoid it, or like grab a screenshot and throw it into the Discord or something and be like, hey, has anyone else seen this, or what's happening here? They always have a different name and no ending. Chapters are the scenes in my head, and then I make chapters to blend them together, but I write out of order. They want people to pay by the page, and people posted that it ends up costing over $60 per book. I'm sure they're stolen. Allegedly, in my opinion. I'm sure they're stolen. I keep seeing a bunch of stuff. There was, I keep seeing, like, after Z Library went down last year or whenever it was, now, like, almost every time I'm on Facebook or X, Twitter, there's someone sharing a Z Library knockoff. Like, all these free books you can grab. Those are all stolen. Etsy, there are so many stores on Etsy where, like, you can grab ebooks for like $1 that are all stolen. All of them are stolen. The author is getting nothing. There's another one. It was a membership site. You could pay something like $5 a month or something and read unlimited books, or so many books a month, or whatever it was. They're all stolen. Like, there's so many. I would say if the membership isn't coming from a bookstore and or from the author themselves, there's a really good chance that it's just stolen. It's just all pirated. Go to the author page to see what's up or buy the book there. I didn't buy it, but they keep popping up and there's no way to locate the author to let them know. That's hard. Yeah, the only thing you can really do is, at least on Facebook, YouTube, it takes, I think YouTube, it takes a little bit longer to train their ads algorithm. On Facebook, though, you can tell them, like, I don't want to see ads from this page. The only thing that sucks is if it keeps popping up under different names, which a lot of these people like to do because scam. You may have to, like, I've had to hide the same ad from like 7 different pages before Facebook was finally like, oh, okay, so it's really the ad you don't like. It advertises a way to promote new authors, but the authors aren't listed and no way to report it. So I'm kind of stuck. There's periods of time missing in my story, chunks of time, but not sure how to fill it in. Like, story-wise? Like, what do you mean? You mean like you wrote, this is happening, and then 4 weeks later something else happened? I ignore those because I found the story isn't ready to tell what happens in between. Yes, ignore it. It doesn't matter. Does it matter? Like, do you need to know what happens in between? Because you probably don't. It's kind of like, I mean, keep writing the story. If you need to know, the idea will come to you. More than likely, a lot of it you just don't need to know. Sometimes, like, let's say the character in your story gets up in the morning and they go to work. Do we need to know that they got into the shower and brushed their teeth and brushed their hair and, checked themselves out in the mirror and stretched and weighed themselves and didn't like the weight and ate breakfast and almost forgot their coffee in the microwave and left the door, came back, grabbed the keys? Like, do we need to know every single step on their way to work? Maybe. I don't know. More than likely not, unless a scene later on in the book says, well, we got into an argument this morning, and then, oh yeah, let me go in and write in the argument or whatever. But there's a really good chance that you just don't need those times. Don't call me out like that. I think she means like between 2 major scenes. Yeah, but you don't necessarily need to know that. Same thing, even if we're not talking detail. Now, if you're talking about characters bonding, what would be a bonding exercise? What would be something that would make them bond? Probably some kind of trauma, something in common that they have, even if it's not trauma. Maybe they went to the same school together. Maybe I don't know. But if you're looking at the book, and again, editing phase, this does not matter while you're writing. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. But in editing, that's when you're going to look at the relationship as if the relationship itself is a character. So if you're going, these 2 characters need a bond, treat the bond as a relationship. Or as a character. How does it start? What does it look like? How does it grow? How does it almost fail? How does it come back? So on and so forth. Give it an arc and follow the arc all the way through the book. I like the bathroom example because we all know get up and get ready to go. We all have that. And we all have our own little routines for that. Do we need a character's routine? Like, if you're reading in a book, they got up and they left for work. Okay, great. Unless something is out of their routine, like their alarm never went off, and so they left and they are not feeling ready because they didn't take their normal routine. That would probably be important, right? But otherwise, do we need to know what their routine is? There's only very few times when we actually need to know the details. So that's an example. That's a great example of times that we can just completely skip in the book. We don't need to know them, and it doesn't matter if my routine is completely different from your routine, and we're both thinking of different routines. It doesn't matter. I've taken your advice to write insert scary new monster here and meet cute scenario when I am blanking on a scene. Eating French toast. French toast! Hello, Seisha. Editing has helped me to fill in the gaps because I was able to see the whole story and not in pieces, so it made it easier to fill in the gaps. Yes. That's why so many things, I always say, like, wait till editing. Writing notes is great, too. I did that, too, just so I know to put scenes. Yes. And Kimmy, is that working for you? I love doing that. Like, insert this, but it's more than just placeholder. It's actually like, this is what I want to do. Put it in later. It bothers me when someone writes a normal scene that isn't normal. Help me so much. Yay! Oh, I love hearing that. Y'all, can I brag for a minute on my daughter? I'm gonna brag on my daughter. I'm gonna. While I'm waiting for the next question, I'm gonna anyway. So, my 9-year-old. Sorry, my 9.5-year-old. Anyway, so she has not seen her father now in 3 weeks because he changed his schedule at work, which meant it knocked off his weeks that he's supposed to spend with the kids. So he skipped a week, and so now it's resetting kind of. So he's supposed to take them this week. Well, he messaged me yesterday and he goes, I'm gonna have to send Mimi, that's his girlfriend, I'm gonna have to send Mimi. Am I back? Okay, so apparently if someone calls and I send it straight to voicemail, I have to wait until they actually record the voicemail. Because I was sitting here going, hello, because I hit no. Anyway, so he was going to send his girlfriend to go pick them up because he doesn't get out of work until 6 o'clock. And he lives 3 hours away because he moved 3 hours away to live with his girlfriend. So if he was going to get out of work at 6, he would have gotten here at 9, which is right in the middle of bedtime. And then he would have gotten back to his girlfriend's house at around midnight. The kids would have ended up sleeping in the car. And then, as you know, to kids, like 3-hour nap in the car, that's a whole freaking night. They're going to wake up bushy-tailed and bright-eyed and ready to jump cartwheels on you at midnight. So to avoid that, he was going to send his girlfriend to come pick them up right after school. So I said, okay, I'll tell the kids. So I told Piper first. I said, hey, by the way, your dad is sending Mimi to come pick you up tomorrow. She goes, no, thanks. And I said, no, thanks. And she goes, I'm just going to stay home with you. And now I was like half in panic because, yes, I love it when my kids want to stay home with me. I love it. But at the same time, I need a break. I need a day. And I have plans tomorrow because we're doing some live sprints tomorrow. So I was like, uh-oh. So then I was like, well, can you explain to me why you don't want to go see your dad and Mimi? And she goes, they make me feel bad. And I said, in what way? And she goes, just like things like if I make a mistake, they don't let it go. Like they don't just tell me about the mistake, but they wait until, like, they keep every time I wake up, they remind me about the mistake. They make me feel worse than I need to feel. I'm sitting here like, this girl is 9, and she's going, they make me feel worse than I need to feel. And then when she cries, they call her dramatic. And she goes, and then that makes me feel bad because now I'm crying because of whatever reason. But now they're also telling me that I'm dramatic and I shouldn't cry because it's too dramatic. And I was like, okay, all right, well, if you want to stay home, I'm never going to tell you you're not allowed to stay home. This is your home. But I think maybe you should talk to your dad. Don't you think so? She goes, no, I don't want to talk to my dad. I said, he's going to want to talk to you. And she goes, can't you just tell him? I said, yeah, I can tell him first, but you're going to have to talk to him. So I end up calling him. I end up telling him. He goes on the defensive about things like how he's just a sarcastic person and he doesn't think it's that big of a deal and blah, 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 blah. And I say, well, it's a big enough deal that your daughter doesn't want to see you because you make her feel bad. It doesn't matter if you think it's a big deal or not. And for all of this, she was at school. So it's not like she overheard me talking to him or anything. I did the phone call while she was at school. So last night after supper, I gave her the phone and told him to video chat with her on my phone. So he called my phone for a FaceTime and I was in the kitchen listening because nosy. And she flat out told him, if you want me to go to your house, you're not allowed to do that to me. You're not allowed to call me dramatic and you're not allowed to make me feel bad just to make me feel bad. And I was like, oh, I'm so stinking proud of her. Right? I have been gushing on her all night last night, telling her how proud I was. This morning, again, I told her how proud I was. I was like, it was probably hard because you probably feel like you might have hurt daddy's feelings. But you know what? He needed to know that he's not allowed to treat you like that. So proud. Gen Alpha, man. Gen Alpha is going to change the world. I am... She deserves ice cream. Right? Maybe Sunday when they get back from their dads. Yeah, that's going to be the real test because she expressed to him that, hey, you're not allowed to treat me like this. This is not right. And if you do it, I'm not going to go. If he doesn't change, though, then, you know, I mean, what can you do? She let him know. Everyone deserves to have boundaries respected. Exactly. Was he like that before he left? Yes. I was wondering because people can be okay, then meet someone that influences their personality and all that. No, and I get that. There's some definite changes in him between when he was with me and now that he's got his new girlfriend. There's some definite changes. However, there's a lot of other things that, because we were together for 15 years, and there were some definite changes between before we had kids and after we had kids. But even then, like, I don't know if there were changes or just that prior to having kids, there was no, there was no reference. There was no frame of reference for how he would be or whatnot. He was always sarcastic. He always called it, dry humor, sarcasm, and whatnot. Like, he was always sarcastic. That is not anything new. The real issue is that she doesn't get sarcasm. And I mean, most kids don't get sarcasm. If they do sarcasm, it's because they're copying their parents, not even necessarily because they fully understand it. She does not fully understand it at all. She just knows that when he talks, she feels bad, which is not good. So there's some things there. When he left, like, remember, I don't know if you remember, when he left, like, the first while, let's see, he made the announcement for about a month and a half. I was like trying to get into counseling, trying to get him into counseling, like doing all of these things, thinking, no, you shouldn't leave. We should work this out and blah, 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 blah. And it was through that process that made me realize, like, dang, no, wait. He's always been bad. I just always gaslit myself. Like, I totally gaslit myself into, he doesn't mean it. It's just a joke. And, or things like, he's under a lot of stress. Like, things like that. I always hated how kids are treated as less than human by some adults. Same. I am a cracky old lady, and I say she should stay home. If she wants. She's decided to give him another chance. Just because they are small doesn't mean they don't deserve to be treated with dignity. True. Sounds like a narc. I don't know if narcissist is the thing. I don't think so. There might be something there, but I don't think he's an actual narcissist. I think a lot of it is that, I mean, we all have a tendency to, like, do certain things and, like, excuse certain people for certain things. But I'll tell you, the people who gaslight themselves the hardest are therapists. They just are. Because we know that there are reasons behind everything. And so when someone is treating us badly, and I say us, I don't work as a therapist anymore. But I was trained as a therapist. I quit working as a therapist, like, right at school's end. I was like, no more, But because we know all the things that go into certain things, it's real. Like, no one will gaslight a therapist worse than the therapist will gaslight themselves. Because we excuse all the behavior all the time. I love talking with kids. Their mind is a wonderland, and I'm amazed at how they see the world. Yeah. It seems the men in our generation were raised to be narcissistic. When I was in school, boys didn't respect boundaries. Yeah, I don't know. See, again, I'm not going narcissists. They were definitely raised differently than girls, but I'm not going narcissist. That's a whole other personality wiring of the brain that I'm not going into. But they were treated differently. And part of that is just patriarchy and misogyny has always been ingrained in our entire culture. That was, our economy was based on the free labor of women, and they go to work, that wasn't just, oh, well, boys will be boys, but girls have to be held accountable things. That was just part of the patriarchy. It's more like a lot of them, especially in our generation, were not taught what good men are from the perspective of a collective society. They were taught what good men are by toxic men. And there is a wild difference between being a narcissist and just having ingrained identity beliefs about what you're supposed to be that got ingrained because society taught you. Because narcissism is an actual disorder. Is it like it's an actual ailment in the brain? There is something wired incorrectly. It's not just someone who's selfish and thinks of themselves. Everyone's defensive more than think about what happened and find a way forward. Yeah, that's the thing too. And I don't blame them. I mean, I don't like it. And I wish they could just like sit down, be quiet, and be like, well, damn. Okay, so that was wrong. How do we fix it? Like, I really wish. But when you're talking to a lot of these people, you are talking to their identity. And so if they've gone through their entire life being told, this is what a man does, this is what a man is, this is how a man acts, and then you're telling them, don't do that, don't be like that, don't act like that. You're not just correcting behavior, you're telling them their identity is wrong. So I don't blame them for having that defensive feeling and wanting to lash back and be like, what? Like, what? I do wish we could like sit down and be like, hi, maybe let's unlearn some things. You know what I mean? Because I do think if it wasn't such an attack on their identity, I do think most of them would probably be more open to sitting down. But it comes off as an attack on their identity. And I mean, it kind of is. It kind of is. But I don't know. Hi. Voidfloof says, good morning. I will throw my sled out there. I was a very defensive person, but me and my partner went through heavy conversations. It was hard, but we sat down and worked on issues that were toxic to both. Our relationship has improved over the years, but we step away from social norms. You say hello. You say hello. Look. All right. Get down. No, let go. No claws. No claws. I was defensive too when I first started hearing about things like white privilege. I was in grad school, so it was right around 2012, I think. 2011 or 2012. Somewhere in there. BLM was just starting up, so maybe it was 2013. But all right, well, at least put your butt down. And I started hearing about like white privilege, and I was like, no. In my brain, I was like, no, I grew up poor. I grew up with like next to nothing. I ran away from home at 15. I had no money. I've like literally worked so freaking hard for literally everything. And like in my mind, privilege was something you were granted um without earning it, right? Kind of like you have a right to food and water, but electricity is a privilege. You know what I mean? Or something along those lines. So in my mind, like, I was like, no, that doesn't make it. And I was like, why is it so bad to be white? Why should I feel bad for being white? I had like such a skewed sense of everything. And every time someone would tell me I had white privilege, I took it, I was defensive. I was like, I took that as I took that as like they were saying that everything that I had been through didn't matter. You know what I mean? Like I was, to me, it hurt in a way of like they were invalidating every struggle I did have. Like you didn't, it was like the pain Olympics. Like, oh, you think you had it bad. I had it worse because, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until 2015, I think, it was like 2 or 3 years when I sat down with someone and no, someone sent me a blog post on how having privilege doesn't mean not having hardships. And I read that blog post, and that's when things started clicking for me. And it started like I was like, "Oh, okay." It was not a good 2 years. I was a good person in my mind, but I was not a good person. I was not a good ally, I should say. Like in my head, I thought I was an ally by being colorblind, and now I know better. Now I know a lot more. But yeah, I took the whole thing about having white privilege. I took that personally. Like I thought that was a slight against me. You know what I mean? Obviously it's not, and I have learned, but I can see where that feeling of defensiveness comes when it feels like it's attacking your identity and everything you went through to be who you are. Void floof. Biggest bridge that helped the process was the book. He loves to hear me read what I wrote, and we build from there. Aww. Ow! Claws! She does this thing because she's bigger than my lap. She does this thing where when her butt starts to fall, she grabs on with her front claws and pulls herself back up. It's hard to deal with that. My partner is a mixed race and we still get looks when we go out. I need to write some fanfic because I keep trying to add characters' names from movies in my book instead of the name of the character in my book. They're bleeding into your work. You get looks too, you're Latina. Yeah, even my stepmother tried to explain it to me, and I didn't get it. My stepmother is from Mexico. She tried to explain it to me. She was like, when you go to the DMV, people don't stare at you. I was like, yes, they do. Or she'd be like, when you go into the store, she goes, what did she say? She said, when I send my son into the store and the cashiers stare at him or they follow him, you don't put up with that. Or you don't, that doesn't happen to you. And I was like, yes, it did. When I went to the store, they followed me. I had no money and they knew it. And they saw me stealing. Like, yes, they did follow me. And she was like, they followed you because you got caught shoplifting. They follow him because of his skin color. Like, and it still, like, it took longer than I'm proud to admit to, like, sink into my head. The desert is dry this year. Ooh, I have to run. Get out of here, Loki. Yeah, certain character names you probably can't use. Some character names, sure. Why not? Dean, okay. Evan and us, we bought a tub that was clear. Lady at the door saw us buy the tub and still questioned us. I'm sorry. Someday, I don't know when, and I don't know if it's ever going to be in our lifetime or the next lifetime or when. But someday, I hope that that stops. She's like, no hug. All right, say goodnight. Say goodnight because I'm kicking you off me. All right. All right, y'all. Need to upload Solus too. Yeah, I'm getting off right now, so you can go do that. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. I hope you have an amazing day. Word, I will see you tomorrow. There's an event in the Discord for live writing sprints tomorrow. So I will see you. It's not gonna be streamed anywhere. Like, I'm not putting it on YouTube. It's just gonna be private to us. So yeah, I will see you tomorrow. Okay, everyone else, I will see you on Monday. All right, bye.